Today's video is all about my near-death experience and what happened in my coma when I had critical head injuries and 42 pieces of metal put into my face. So make sure you stick around to the end and you'll find out for yourself the truth about what happens when we die and the truth about God or the higher consciousness. So the topic of my coma is probably the number one question I get asked, besides healing and how I was able to heal my brain and body. So I just wanted to go into that coma with you on this video and explain exactly what happened and where I'd come from and the deep, powerful teachings that were given to me, and then the rebirth that came out of my brush with death. So to put this in perspective, the night before my car accident was talking to a friend, and I mentioned that when we die, there's nothing. There's no purpose to human existence. And I remember saying, just like when you step on an ant, that ant dies, just like it never was at all. So I'd been a devout atheist and for a long time and severely depressed. Deep self-worth issues, deep drug addiction and depression. And it all culminated in this night of August the 12th, which is my dark night of the soul. So when I crashed my car, I found myself in a room and there was no memory of the identity known as Damien Horton. There was no memory or understanding of past pain or my family or any of the stories that I'd made up in my head and the ways I'd conditioned my consciousness and survived, and all the things I'd been through didn't exist in that place. And instead I was just pure consciousness having this experience. And the first thing that happened was I was in a wheelchair and I was wheeled towards this table that was in the center of this room. And there was another presence there that tried to test me to see if I would return to drugs, to see if I would return to the darkness that had consumed basically my entire existence. And this was all non-spoken, like non-verbal communication that isn't linear. Our understanding of time and A goes to B goes to C does not exist. It's an infinite now. So there's no reference point, if you will, of past and future. And this, in my book, I refer to them as the trickster sensed my trepidation about being lured into this, drugs to help with the healing process. That's what it was. He was literally getting cocaine ready on this table and beckoning me to come in and join him. And it was, this entity was a male figure. And the only way I could describe it is my soul or the heart. The heart said no. Like fundamentally, I knew that this was not right. It wasn't right. It wasn't the right direction. It went against every fiber of my true self in that state as pure consciousness. And the moment my heart said no, instantly this other loving presence wheeled me away from the drugs and away from this scene and took me over to a window. And all I remember is, again, through non-verbal communication, the message was, you need to rest a while. And I was in that moment for a billionth of a micron of 1 second, or I was there for eternity. But in another sense, in a paradox, it was both. It was both. And while I was at this window, I heard my brother's voice. At first it was just a voice, and it was like it was coming from all the walls and everywhere. And I remember I looked back to see if anyone else in that space, in that vision that I was having, could also hear it. And then I remembered, that's my brother Jared. I can clearly remember that moment where I went, that's my brother. And in that second of his voice pulling me back to the life that I'd left behind, I then remembered my mum. And then instantly I remembered and I said, I am Damien. So that conditioned consciousness, where there is no judgment, there's no labeling, there's no reference point, like I said, it's just I am, which is who you truly are. That's the true self. Conditioned, the infinite, the eternal, was conditioned into this expression of I am Damien Horton. And the moment I conditioned consciousness, a vertical tear opened up in the window that I was parked up against in my wheelchair, and this perfect divine light started pouring through this vertical tear that was in front of me. Just this pale, divine, breathtaking light was just coming out of this aberration in the space that I was in, and it was coming over me, it was consuming me. And in that moment my heart knew and made the decision that I know where I need to be, I know where I want to be. And the channel, or the catalyst that brought me back, was my brother's voice, and then remembering the love of my mum and all of it. And as I stood from the wheelchair, I was pulled from my heart. I was pulled into this tunnel, as cliche as that sounds, of pale light, not bright light, as if you were out on a sunny day, but it was consuming me, like the essence of who I am. And as I was coming through this tunnel, it was so familiar, and it was almost like fractal patterns made up the boundary of this portal, this tunnel. And I was sucked through it instantly, and bang, I'm lying in intensive care with my brother holding my left hand right just here, and my mum's down at my feet, and I had no memory of crashing my car. I didn't know what was going on. And the first thing I said to my brother is I whispered to him, and I said, a cop punched me in my face. And he just said, nah, Damo, you've been in a coma for over a week, and we've all been here for you. We've all been right here for you. And it was the ultimate death of the ego, the ultimate shattering of the paradigm, that I'd lived from. My conception of self, and the old Damien died in that coma forever. And I realized instantly that I had created this. I was responsible for everything that had ever happened to me in my life. This was my mess. This was the result of self-worth issues and hating myself and running from my pain, running from hurt and not wanting to feel that hurt. And I knew that if I just came back to my heart, I could heal. It was information that was given to me in my coma that no matter what any doctor, any medical expert said to me, it couldn't come close to the knowing, the information that I was given, that I was going to be all right, I was going to be fine, and I could heal all of it. So I'd had critical head injuries, critical brain hemorrhaging, like bilateral, frontal lobe hemorrhaging, and my temporal lobes on both sides, as well as global hemorrhaging through the entire brain, petechial hemorrhaging they call it. And I broke my spine in 6 places as well. And they'd cut my face off and rebuilt my entire face. I had complex panfacial fractures, which they described as being smashed in the face with a sledgehammer. So 42 titanium pieces have gone into my face, and I was told that I wouldn't be able to heal, and I was told I'd be in pain forever, and I was told I would just have to live with it. And I was walking. I got up and I walked out of the hospital 5 days later. And it was this knowing inside myself that this intelligence or consciousness that's animating my body, this intelligence that runs the 70 trillion cells and all the systems of my body, that was more intelligent and knew more than these medical experts, and that I just had to keep the belief, keep that space that I'd found in the coma alive, and I would be able to heal. And I did. This has become my life and my reality, and it taught me that conditioning consciousness, when we condition the infinite, all potentiality, every version of ourselves that we could ever be, when we condition that, we say, I am, that conditioned consciousness creates the physical universe. It creates our personal version of reality. But it's one potential out of limitless potentials that we have. So I realized that if my thinking was right, if I was going to manifest my dreams and write books and make music and make records and help other people and live in joy and love and peace, which is the most important thing of all of this, it's our state of consciousness, the quality of our present moment, being able to honor life. That's the gold standard. Money can't even come close to that. That if my thinking was right, if I was right, there's no way I could have 42 bits of metal in my face right now. So it was a huge ego death. I had to swallow my pride, and this is really hard to do because we identify with thought. We identify with the belief and the thoughts and the way we've conditioned consciousness and placed meaning in our world and expectation on our world, and believe when we're not awake, when we're not enlightened, we believe that that's the truth and that's who we are. But it's not. It's not even close. We are ultimately one with all expressions of life in this universe. We all come from the unified state, and we all return to the same home, which was our birthplace, and it's the same unified state of consciousness with no subject and object relationship, no duality. There's no duality there. It's all that can be. The seed or the potential of all forms comes from that place, and yet in that place it's just infinite, unconditioned, loving consciousness. And when you touch that place, you bring a little bit of it back with you. Every time you go there, you bring a little bit of its loving intelligence back into this world. And there is absolutely nothing to be frightened of. It's the most familiar place, the coming home of all coming homes when you go back there. But we only have that realization for many of us at that point of physical death. And, you know, enlightenment, awakening, is ultimately the rapid expansion of our subjective consciousness, this huge burst that happens in a very short period of time, where we can feel and know our shared divinity, our shared oneness with all of life. And it doesn't come from a book. It's not because you were born into a religion and your parents believed in some book on a shelf. You go there, you are the evidence, you are the truth. You become your own science, and it requires no validation from any other external thing. And that's knowing. And this state of consciousness that I'm describing to you is your birthright. And it's available to every one of us, regardless of the color of your skin, your political views, your sexual preferences. This intelligence is just waiting for us to make contact with it. So that's today's video. Hopefully it's been an eye-opener for you, and it's an honor for me to be here and be on the other side, and to have healed myself and completely healed depression, and be able to share these positive videos, this positive message with you all. So if you want to find out more, DamienHorton.com. I offer all sorts of stuff, mentoring, one-on-one coaching. You can get a copy of the new book, Limitless, Reconnecting with the Infinite Power Within, and also live events, live workshops that I've put together to show people the way to open their third eye and to heal past pain and have this experience for yourself. Because as I said before, it is your birthright, and it's available to each and every one of us. So that's it. Sending you light and sending you love.